It's been more than a year since I moved out of my parents' house, and in this video, I'll share 5 things about my experience of living alone. But first, please make sure you like, share, and subscribe. It will help me grow the channel. We are on a journey to 1,000 subscribers, and you can be one of them. So, the first thing about living alone for me is the psychological piece that comes with it. And what I mean by this is I don't have to worry about stepping on other people's toes or holding myself back because of other people. When I was living in my parents, when you do something, someone will make a complaint or they would not like how you did it for whatever reason, and that causes tension and anxiety. And sometimes you do something and you end up asking yourself, why then did I put the effort? If I always do something and someone complains, then why should I even make an effort of doing anything? But now that I'm alone, the space is mine and I can do whatever I want. I don't have to fight to do something innocently and then someone starts complaining about it. I don't have to think about it. So I guess that's what happens when you share space. When you share space, there's bound to be conflict, there's bound to be disagreements, and that just goes away when you have the space to yourself, and that means psychological peace. And that's very important, at least for me. The second thing about living alone is I've realized how much of our parents' thinking and influence rubs on us. I mean, it seems obvious, but I only noticed this after moving out, and you probably have things that you have noticed about yourself that you saw happening at home, and it kind of startled you because you thought you were not like your parents, right? You thought you would do things differently. It's very easy to look and criticize when you're living in your parents and say, oh, why do they always do this? I will do it differently in my house. But when you live alone, you might subconsciously fall into the same patterns because these are things that have been done ever since you were a child, and you subconsciously pick them up and they get stored in your brain, and you might not realize it, again, like I've said, until you're alone. And so for me, for example, I've realized that I don't get out as much. One of the reasons could be I work from home. And when you work from home, you're pretty much at home, right? Because you have to get work done. But then you can break the monotony by looking for a co-working space or maybe going to a restaurant to work so that you can get out of the house. So someone might say that's not really an excuse, and I would say yes, I would agree. You can break the monotony by yourself by going out and working in different places, and that has, I would say, working from home shouldn't really be a big factor here. But so here's the big factor. The big factor here is that growing up in my parents' house, I wasn't allowed to go out for things like parties, for dinners, for evening events. It was always you have to be home by this time, 6 o'clock or 7 o'clock. I even remember the first time I went to uni, I came back home at around 8 p.m. and I got a couple of phone calls like, where are you? And I'm like, I'm on my way back home. And so I was just like, that kind of tightness has to be let go, like, just let me be out here and do what I'm doing. And I understand it comes from a place of wanting security, but at the same time, you have to be a little bit flexible to let them go out there and do what it is that they want to do. And so not being encouraged to go for events, to attend parties and all of these kind of leads you to a place where you are very confined. When you get this told to you when you're young until you grow, now by the time you grow up, you have been conditioned that being out at 7 p.m. is wrong and it's bad, and it's not. Now what I'm doing is that I am deliberately looking for events, paying for events so that I can get out of the house, eating out, having lunch out or dinner out so that I can expose myself out there. Yeah, so some of these things you will realize only after you move out. What about you? Is there something that you only picked up after you left your parents' house? Write it down in the comment section below. It could be similar, it could be different. Whatever it is, just write it down there. Moving on, and to the third thing is finding yourself. Trust you me. When you're living with your parents, they make the decisions for the most part. Your work is just to follow on the decisions, or there's always someone who's going to make the decisions for you. And so when you move out of your parents, you're taking up that responsibility of making the decisions, and this will make you find yourself, because now you will have to think, okay, this is how we did it at home. I don't like that. Let me just switch it up and do it this way and do it that way. And by doing that, you come to find out what you like and what you don't like. And in that, you become your own person. That's how growth happens. And the fourth one is, again, I think most people know this, but until you are in that position, you really don't understand it. And this is not having a safety net. What I mean by this is, I don't mean that you cannot ask your parents for support. Of course, they will always be there. Of course, you can always go back to them for support. But what I mean is, it's your space now. You've taken all the responsibility. You have the bills to pay. You have X and Y, Z to run. And if you don't do them, they will not get done. It all falls on you. And so not having that makes you, or at least makes me, want to do more and to think of different avenues of, say, making money and hunting for opportunities and trying new things, getting out of your comfort zone, because you've got responsibilities now. And the fifth and the final one is, you will get your own freedom. You finally have their freedom. And someone might say, okay, when you're an adult and you're living in your parents, you have the freedom. But I disagree, because you can be an adult living in your parents, but the fact that you're still in their space, it denies you the freedom of doing some things that you may want. So for example, are you going to invite your friends to your parents' house and hang out there? Chances are that you are not going to do that, right? Are you going to invite your boyfriend or girlfriend and hang out in your parents' house? Chances are you won't do that. But if you have your own space, you can do that. So that's the ultimate freedom. Those are the 5 things that have stood out for me ever since I moved out. So let me know if some of these things resonate with you, and if your experience is different, write them in the comment section down below. So that will be all for this video. Remember to like, share, and subscribe, and I'll talk to you soon.